Hello everyone, my name is Sada Fatima. I am a guest faculty at KMCL Language University. Today my topic is an introduction to the 14th century society as represented in Prologue to the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. A 14th century society was a time of transition, where from the Anglo-Norman era to the Elizabethan era, and it was a time when English was considered as before this English was considered as vulgar. It was considered as a language of the low class people. It was a time when English was coming up again, and it was because of the efforts of Geoffrey Chaucer himself. And it was a time where there was heavy changes in the society, but there was this the Hundred Years War was going on between France and England, and there was a rise of money economy. The feudal system was going away gradually. Then it was a time of Black Death. There was this big uh, epidemic of bubonic plague, in which hundreds and thousands, in which half of the people of England died, and that's why there was a rise. There was this prosperity was noticed in the rural areas, as compared to the urban areas. There was rampant corruption in the churches, because since most of the clergy people have died because of the plague, so the people were recruiting people from anywhere in these positions. That's why there was this rampant corruption in the church, which is also represented in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. There was rise of trade guilds. The weavers, the artisans, the carpenters used to form these trade guilds. They used to go from city to city, sets up their price and their regulations and the demands, whatever, and they were prospering at the time. Basically we can see the whole of English society was divided into four classes: the nobility, the warrior class, and the clergy, and obviously the working class, that included the shopkeepers, the tradesmen, the merchants, everyone. And or the Chaucer takes this uses the represents the society through his 31 pilgrims. All of these 31 pilgrims who converge at the Towered Inn to go while going to the St. Thomas Cathedral for their pilgrimage, do not only represent their individual characteristics. They are unique in their own ways, but they are also representative of their class and the condition of their classes. Some of the examples: for example, the first character that is introduced in the prologue is the knight. Knight is the noble. The only class that is not represented actually is the nobility. So he starts with the warrior class, that is the knight. And the knight is this great, brave, and loyal man who is attributed with every gentleness, every kind of good attributes. He is not at all satirized by Geoffrey Chaucer. And his son Squire. Squire is also with is a devoted son. Although he makes fun that although belonging to the warrior class, that son of his is actually more of a poet than of a warrior. Or the corruption of the churches is presented through the friar, the summoner, the pardoner, who actually sell the bones, the pig bones, and the pillowcases at as relics of the Christian of this great Christian relics, who actually sell the pardons to the rich people. The friar who actually exploits women and then gets them married to men. Then the working class, or the prosperity of the trading class, is shown through the characters of wife of Bath, who is a weaver, and she is traveling with this great woman, the wife of Bath. One of the characteristics of wife of Bath is that she has married 5 times. Everyone remembers that. So she is this bold woman who likes to travel. Then the worldliness of the clergy class is also shown in the character of Madame Eglantine and the monk. Madame Eglantine is supposed to be a prioress, and she's supposed to be this unworldly creature. However, she likes to speak French. She has this bouche that says "Love conquers all." She is very sophisticated. So the one of the features of character, the way Chaucer describes these characters, called tongue in cheek. So he actually doesn't say it, but he is actually implying how he is making fun of these characters. The monk loves to hunt. He doesn't likes to live in his cloister. So then there is also the class. Then there's the characters of Miller, and the character of the clerk of Oxford is there. All these characters form this microcosm of the society within this short prologue in the play, and that's why John Dryden says that here's God's playing